There we go. Let's do a quick AV check. Be sure that everything is loud and clear. That's beautiful. Let's share that. All right, we will be going live in. We are live. We'll be starting in 1 minute. And it is 9 o'clock, so let the juggling begin. Great morning, business owners and managers. Wes Walters here, and welcome to another awesome episode of CX in the Morning. Yes, customer experience in the morning. On every single CX in the morning, I bless you with customer service tips, customer service tricks, and I leave you with gems. And by gems, I mean actionable takeaways that you can implement at the speed of now, immediately after this broadcast. You'll be able to take what you've learned and share it with your team, making you and your team better. And who doesn't want to be better, right? All right, great. So how is everyone's week going so far? Let's the check-in before the lesson. The check-in before the lesson. It's Hump Day Wednesday, so if all things are aligned correctly, you should be halfway through your goals. Yes, halfway through your goals. So if you're not, then you have to double up for the remainder of the week. Especially since it was a short week, so you've been robbed. I wouldn't say robbed because you chose to go to the barbecue instead of working on your goals, right? So you're 1 day shy of what you normally would have, 24 hours shy. But anyway, let's jump right into this. Is going to be a real short show, and it's story time. Grab your popcorn. I don't know, what do you get at the movies? Popcorn and junk food. Grab your junk food, gather around. It's story time, right? All right. So I needed to get my house pressure wash, right? And I'm a proponent of supporting up and coming entrepreneurs. So although this wasn't the company that I normally go to, a friend of a friend of a friend, 6 degrees of separation, someone recommended, said, hey, I have a cousin or a friend, I forgot how it was, that is starting a pressure washing company. And if you ever need your house pressure washed, support him. He needs business. I say, sure, I have no problem in supporting, and I want to see this business thrive. So reached out, said, hey, what's the price to need the entire house pressure washed? And he said this was the price. I said, great, come on. I sent the deposit, and he showed up. And this is where it gets interesting, right? So normally contractors, this was like a deleted scene from the Dave Chappelle show. So normally when contractors show up to do that type of work, they're in a van or a truck, right? You're thinking Ford F-150, Chevy Silverado. Yeah. Wrong. This guy shows up in a Honda Civic. I know what you're thinking. You're like, well, Mr. Walters, was it a Honda Pilot or maybe a what's the Honda Civic SUV? It's a Honda CRV. A Honda CRV. I mean, yeah, CRV. Is it a Honda CRV? Let's see what it is. CRV. Yeah. So a Honda CRV is nothing but a Honda Civic on stilts. It's a Honda Civic with the suspension of an SUV. Same chassis, same engine as a Honda Civic. So a Honda Civic is a CRV is simply a Honda Civic on stilts. A Honda Civic with more higher suspension. So he didn't show up in a CRV. He didn't show up in a Honda Pilot. He showed up in a Honda Civic. Yes, the car. And I'm looking out my window. I was like, this can't be the contractor. Then he sends the text. Hey, I'm here. And I'm like, this is the contractor, right? Anyway, so I went outside. Hey, I said, hey, all four sides like we discussed. See you when it's done. So about 2 minutes later, I got a knock. It's like, yes. He say, you got a ladder? I said, yeah, I got a ladder. Do you have a ladder? He said, no, I don't have a ladder. I said, okay, the ladder is in the garage. Now, this contractor didn't have any tools. He had one brush and my ladder and a little kit, almost like, when you go to a car wash, like when you go to those hand washing car washes where the individuals have a little kit with their little bucket. He had a little kit and a brush. And I was like, immediately the feelings of, I've been bamboozled. He didn't have his tools. He was ill-equipped. He was using my ladder, and he didn't look the part. Now, immediately, my trust in what he was going to do plummeted. I was like, this is going to be a bad experience. I would love to support, up and rising businesses, but the minimum they have to do is do what I'm paying for. And this automatically looked bad. So first lesson, once the customer loses faith in your business, product, or services, it's very, very hard to get that back. Let's stop right there. I lost faith. Do I have copies of my book? I do have copies of my book. Let's. One second. Yes. So, like I was saying, once a customer loses confidence in your business, your product or services, it's very hard to get that back. So, in my book, Customer Experience, 3 Simple Tools to Turn One-Time Consumers into Loyal Customers, I talk about what's called a term that I coined, Supreme Customer Experience. And there are 3 pillars to supreme customer experience. The first pillar is the first impression. The second pillar is the connection. So the first impression happens without you. The second is the connection, second pillar, which is the human connection. And the third pillar is the execution. So those 3 pillars, again, are the first impression, the connection, and the execution. First impression, what could have easily rectified this issue was if he was wearing a uniform. A uniform signifies, hey, I'm an expert. I'm a subject matter expert, and I'm a professional. I know what I'm talking about. Just by a uniform, just by having the uniform. There we go. Sorry about that. So he didn't have a uniform. And that could have quelled my concern. The fact that he showed up in a uniform, he's professional. I'm like, okay, that's the subject matter expert. I'm in a t-shirt. I'm not. That would have quelled some of my concern. So he failed with the human, with the first impression. Now, the connection, he aced. The connection was he was very kind. He was very polite. He showed up on time. He showed up early because, you know, if you've been following the channel long enough, if you're on time, you're late. You have to be early to be on time. So he was on time because he showed up early. Now, if you got the book, and if you don't, you can just, you can go to weswalters.com, West, W-E-S-S, Walters.com and get the book. But in the book, I cover that although the supreme customer experience consists of 3 pillars: the first impression, the connection, and the execution. Now, all you do need is 2 of the 3 pillars at any given time to have run a successful business. Yes, if you're an all-star, it would be great to have all 3 pillars, but you don't. At any given time, all you need is 2 of the 3 pillars, and you're running a successful business. How many times have you visited a business or a restaurant in particular, or any business, and you said, oh my God, this was the worst service I've ever experienced, and I'm never returning? 6 months later, you're on the other side of town, and you see new location, brand just opened. And you're like, what? How in the world is this business still thriving and opening new locations? Well, to answer the question is because at any given time, although you experience probably one pillar, which was a bad experience for you, at any given time, this business is acing 2 of the 3 pillars. So if they fail the first impression, they're acing the connection and the execution. If they nail the first impression and they fail the connection, they're acing the execution. Or if they nail the first impression, nail the connection, and fail in the execution, they still have 2 of the 3 pillars that they're acing. So in this case, the gentleman, the contractor, failed pillar 1, which is the first. No, he actually failed pillar 1, which was the first impression. Now, pillar 2, my first impression of him, I'm like, who is this guy in a Honda Civic as a contractor with no ladder? Now, pillar 2, the connection, he aced. He was very kind. He was on time, very polite. He politely asked me to use my own ladder, which I let him use the ladder. But moving along, at the end of the day, fast forward, when he called me and he said, hey, Mr. Walters, I'm finished, I was totally surprised. I was amazed. I couldn't understand how this guy with a little bit of water, some chemicals, I guess this was chemicals from the gods, I guess, and my ladder was able to have the house looking brand new again, spotless. I was impressed and I was happy. So again, he failed with the first impression. Pillar 1, he failed. Pillar 2, the connection, the human connection, he aced. And pillar 3, the execution. I paid for this and I got it. So of the 3 pillars, he aced 2 of the 3 pillars. He aced 2 of the 3 pillars. Now, ways to, again, quell the concern of the customer is one way he could have avoided this was showed up in a uniform that says, hey, Johnny's pressure washing, a power washing, home washing company. I would have been like, okay, although he's in a Honda Civic with no ladder, I would have been like, he's a professional. Another way could have been, another way to quell this is if he was able to speak about his offering in an intelligent way. He did not share with me, hey, Mr. Walters, this is an X amount of size house. This has X amount of square feet. I'm going to get up there. I'm going to do this. There's mold. He didn't educate me about the type of mold, about the type of weathering, because there's a river behind my house. The moisture in the back of the house obviously is greater than the moisture in the front of the house. He didn't give me any of those examples, and of course, why there's more moisture on the back of the house compared to the front of the house. So the front of the house always looks better than the back of the house. None of that explanation. So if you're able to show up in a uniform, if he was able to show up in a uniform, if he was able to speak intelligently about the product or service, that's why I always talk about not putting employees on the floor prematurely before they are ready, because you have that one opportunity where someone is rushing in your store to get a product or service, and they happen to meet that one new employee who cannot answer their questions intelligently, and you have just dropped the ball and they might never return. Third is the way you could quell that is, again, executing, which he did. Just doing what you said you were going to do. They paid for food, hot food, cold drinks. Give them hot food, cold drinks. And of course, you want to exceed the expectation. But the bar minimum is to deliver on the brand promise. That's the bare minimum. That's the floor. Deliver on the brand promise. All right. So the interesting thing is, even though this situation started off very bad, I was like, there is no way a contractor is going to show up in a Honda Civic with no ladder to clean my house, right? The good thing is, someone or a customer where you have, if a business drops the ball, if there's a service failure, that customer is more likely to be an ally and an ambassador, a brand ambassador, than compared to a customer who you think, a lot of times, a lot of my clients believe that they have loyal customers. No, you don't have a loyal customer. I always tell my clients, you do not have a loyal customer until you've had a service failure. You have a consistent customer. Yes, they're consistent. You're 5 minutes from their house. It's convenient. You have a consistent customer, but you do not have a loyal customer until you have dropped the ball for that customer and was given an opportunity to recover. You do not have a loyal customer. So in this case, I went from being a skeptic to being a brand ambassador in the same day. One, because he took me to the opposite side of the spectrum. I was like, this is bad. And then he not only cleaned the house, but the house looked amazing on the outside. So I went from the one extreme to the other extreme in less than 24 hours. So yes, those are the customers where in this case, he quasi dropped the ball. There was a service failure, but by his appearance, there was a service failure. Let's just say it was a quasi service failure. His appearance said, this is bad. The end product says, this is amazing. So your customers, one thing, if you haven't had a service failure with the client, you don't have a loyal customer. You have a consistent customer, but not a loyal customer. He was able to drop the ball and recover in the same event, in the same one sitting, right? It's almost like the same effect of when there is a championship team against an underdog. Everybody, especially when the game is in the hometown of the championship team, everybody expects the championship team to just dominate and destroy the underdog. When, however, the underdog happens to beat the championship team, everybody is flabbergasted. Everyone is like, how in the world did this happen? And everyone remembers it because it wasn't likely to happen. Same thing like David and Goliath's story. Two giants fighting two giants. Not a big deal. It's not memorable. Two peasants fighting two peasants. Not something memorable. a peasant beating a giant. I want to call David a peasant, but someone as small as David beating a giant. That's memorable. That's why we remember it, because there is no way David can beat this Goliath, but he did. That's why we remember that situation, why we remember that story, why it's forever etched in our memory, because the likelihood of that happening is very, very unlikely. The chances of that happening is very unlikely, but it happened. Now, there's so many things to unpack here. Real quick. Like the book, in the book, again, you can go to weswalters.com and get the book. In the book, although there are 3 pillars to supreme customer experience, at any given time as a business owner, you only need 2 of the 3 pillars. Pillar 1 is the first impression. Pillar 2 is the connection, the human connection. And pillar 3 is the execution. At any given time, to run a successful business, you need to have 2 of the 3 pillars. When a business fails, they no longer have 2 of the 3. They're probably operating on 1 of the 3 pillars. You cannot survive with 1 pillar. A table cannot stand with 1 pillar, 1 leg. We as humans, we can stand on 2 legs. Very difficult to stand long-term on 1 leg. Same thing for a business. So you need 2 of the 3 pillars. The second takeaway from this is that, yes, even when things seem bad, you can recover. Yes, you can recover. It's not over. You can recover. And this guy, he didn't recover the second time out, because if he had dropped the ball, if the house didn't look clean, he would have never gotten an opportunity to recover from me. Maybe it's somebody else, but never with me. But I guess he picked up on, hey, this client is doubtful, so let me overcompensate, which he did. The house was spotless when he was finished. Third takeaway here is nonverbal communication. Again, looking through the window and seeing this supposed to be contractor, which I'm expecting to be in a Ford pickup truck or a Chevy Silverado, to be in a Honda Civic, lower to the ground too. I mean, it was low. He showed up bouncing just. I mean, that thing was low to the ground. Like this is the contractor. The nonverbal communication. I said, this is not good. So he could have, the flip side of that is that if he showed up. So here's the flip side. If you look the part, more people are more receptive to you if you look the part and know nothing, compared to not look the part and know everything. You won't even get in the door if you don't look the part. So nonverbal communication in appearance and in mannerisms are huge. And you should definitely let your associates, your team members know that. And one last gem that I thought about is that there's a lot of power in being underestimated. There is a lot of power in being underestimated. It takes me to a story when Master P was trying to find a distribution deal. And they looked at him and they're like, nah, he ain't going to do much. There's not so much he can do. He's a country boy. And because he was underestimated, why he was able to get one of the biggest distribution deals in hip hop history, because he was underestimated. And for me, if I told you how many times being underestimated worked to my advantage, like right now, currently, right now, there are clients and people who are underestimating me. And I love it. It's not a bad thing. It's a great thing. I love it, because being underestimated, I'm able to get a better deal. I'm able to position myself to just bust their head wide open. I'm going to be like, you're going to be so surprised. You're going to be like, oh, I should have never doubted him. Yes. So there's power in being underestimated. There's power in being the underdog as a business. So I don't want you to look at that as a bad thing. So those are the 4 takeaways that I got from it. I would like to know what you got. What are your biggest takeaways from the story? Don't hesitate to please, if you're watching this on Instagram, on YouTube, to subscribe to the channel. If you're not watching it on YouTube, then go over to Wes Walters on YouTube and subscribe. It would really help the channel out. And of course, share, like, and comment. See you guys next Wednesday. That's it.